Who has power in the education system? Ed100 Chapter 7 explains the structure of it, from Washington, D.C. to Sacramento to your school site. Constitutionally, education systems are the responsibility of the state. Not federal, not local. The buck stops at the state. But what does that mean? Authority at the state level is fragmented. The legislature and governor set the laws. The governor appoints the 11 members of the State Board of Education, which oversees academic standards and tests and has the power to waive laws. The State Board also gives guidance on instructional materials and sets policy for the State Department of Education. The Department of Education is headed by the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, a constitutionally independent elected office and an oddity of the California system. Another independent state authority in the California system is the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, which sets standards for the programs that prepare teachers. The federal government's involved too, especially through the power of money. Federal funds have at times accounted for up to about 10% of California's education budget. Federal funds support school lunches and provide some of the money for special education, for example. Federal funds also provide some additional funds for school districts with many children in poverty. Federal programs come with strings attached, such as the requirement to test students each year. Federal incentives have also played a big role in making state education systems more transparent about school results, including the requirement that states must have a way of identifying the schools where students are routinely failing. But for most decisions that matter, the real power in California's school system rests in the hands of its 1,000 or so school districts. It's districts that hire teachers and principals. Districts set the rules for who attends school where. Districts make curriculum choices. School districts in aggregate employ over 500,000 people in California, from teachers to maintenance staff. School district boundaries are separate from city boundaries, and they often don't match. Mayors and city councils have little or no role in school districts. They're a separate arm of the executive branch of government. School districts are supported and in some ways overseen by county offices of education. For example, county offices are responsible for reviewing and approving school district budgets and local control accountability plans, usually known as LCAPs. Teacher unions play a powerful role in education in California. Most teachers pay about $1,000 or so per year as members of a union, which represents them in negotiating their contract with the school districts. These unions have passionate supporters and skeptics. Lesson 7.5 explains their perspectives, but more importantly explains what unions do. The biggest power player of all in California's education system is the voter. Initiatives like Proposition 13 and Prop 98 have had an enormous impact on the education system. It costs about $3 per signature to put an initiative on the ballot, and the cost of a campaign to pass an initiative can easily run to tens of millions. Policy decisions don't happen in a vacuum. A constellation of research and advocacy organizations influence policy choices, advising and persuading, pushing and pulling. Lesson 7.7 describes some of the biggest ones. This lesson highlights a few important organizations that serve as referees and fact-checkers, notably the California Legislative Analyst Office, or LAO, EdSource, and PACE. Accountability is easy in some sectors. For example, restaurant owners keep their kitchens clean because they could be fined or shut down if they fail an inspection. Accountability in education is a lot harder. Shutting a school with a bad record doesn't automatically make education work better. Both the state and federal government have tried different policy approaches, sometimes at odds with one another. When No Child Left Behind ended, the federal law that replaced it, called ESSA, created a new obligation for states to intervene in their lowest performing schools. There are two challenges with that plan: identifying the lowest performing schools and figuring out how to intervene in a way that helps. School turnarounds are very difficult. As a practical matter, California's most potent strategy for helping students in dysfunctional schools has been to allow them to leave and enroll elsewhere. The state has also created an agency called CCEE to provide struggling schools with advice and assistance. California's education system has changed significantly in the last decade, reducing both state and federal regulation and placing increased power in the hands of school districts. An important premise of this change is that school districts ought to be accountable to the communities they serve. The most important tool for that vision is a public report that the school districts must deliver annually to their community along with their budget. It's called the Local Control Accountability Plan, or LCAP. These plans are complex and detailed. Part of the reason why Ed100 exists is to provide community members with a realistic way to grow in their understanding and be part of the process. If you serve in the leadership of a PTA or on a school site council, you are the target reader of the LCAP report. It was actually created with you in mind. That's it for this quick overview of Ed100 Chapter 7. The next chapter will be about education funding. For much more, including quizzes, discussion guides, and our blog, visit ed100.org online.